I'm Heather, and this is a Living with Addiction podcast, where I show you how you have more power than you realize when it comes to helping yourself and your child that's struggling with addiction. Hello, hello. Oh my gosh, it feels so good to be back to doing a little bit of work and recording some podcasts again, because everything that you've been listening to for the last month was pre-recorded. And so I feel a little bit like I'm recording my first podcast again. In fact, this is actually the second time I'm recording this because the sound quality was so awful the first time. So hoping for a better outcome this time. And part of me just getting back to work is that, my brain is not 100%. So I'm just going to be upfront about that. This is going to be a short podcast. I might stumble over some of my words. I don't know why it has taken so long for my brain to fully turn back on, but it just has. And so I'm just going to work with what I have today. And right now, I am experiencing the 50-50 of life. In episode 8, I talked about how we aren't supposed to be happy 100% of the time, and how life is meant to be a balance of positive and negative emotions. And just because we aren't happy all of the time doesn't mean that anything has gone wrong, even though for some reason we always feel that way. Why do we feel like something has gone wrong or that we should be happy all of the time? It just sets us up for judging ourselves for our humanness. And that's the last thing that we need when we're feeling bad. We just need to love ourselves through it. And one side of that 50-50 is that I'm super excited to be able to record this podcast for the first time in over a month. I mean, I just have not physically been capable of it since my surgery. Even just last week, I was not capable of recording the podcast, but the human body is so amazing and can turn things around so quickly that here I am this week feeling totally different. And I also got amazing news at the doctor yesterday. I'm officially surgically NED. And NED means no evidence of disease. For some reason, when you have breast cancer, they never say that you're cancer-free. I don't know why. You're just NED. So that's the best possible outcome, right? So that's amazing. My pathology reports came back with no cancer in my lymph nodes. And so they're not recommending any chemo or radiation. But the flip side of that is that today I found out that I have to have an unexpected surgery. So I knew when I started this that I was going to have 3 total surgeries, including the first one where they started reconstruction. So this is going to add a 4th one. I'm having a complication with some of my skin not healing, and so that has to be fixed. And I'm super disappointed about that because I wasn't expecting it. And of course, I don't want to go through it. Like, I'm just starting to feel like myself again. I'm feeling like, I don't know, the last 3 weeks, it's felt like my head wasn't on my body and none of my body parts were cooperating or working together. It was just like, I felt like a marionette trying to walk or something. And I told one of my friends today that I thought I had surrendered to this process before my surgery, but now I realize that that's not true. My surrender had a lot of stipulations. I surrendered to what I thought would happen, to what I wanted to happen, but not what could happen. And every process has the possibility of unforeseen outcomes. And so I'm just having to surrender to that. I know that, right? It's so interesting that I know that, but I really didn't think it through when I was surrendering to things or consciously thinking my surrender to this process has stipulations. And that's the same surrender that we have to go through when our kids are struggling with addiction, right? It's not what we signed up for. I can remember saying, like, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to my daughter? I signed up for things like late night feedings, dirty diapers, some disagreements, maybe a little teenage rebellion, but I didn't sign up for the pain of addiction. Of course, that's what we're signing up with for parenting. Anything could go, should happen, right? But initially, I resisted it and denied it and tried to control it until it controlled me because I was consumed with it. And it controls us until we surrender to it and accept it and figure out how to work with it. But like I said before, surrender just isn't one big action. We have to do it over and over again. We have to be conscious of how we're showing up in a situation, of how we're handling it, how we're working through it. We have to just surrender to each new thing that comes up. Like when it comes to our kids' addiction, there's the escalation to using more dangerous drugs, to the change in lifestyle, the homelessness, living in hotels, the strained or non existent relationship. We have to surrender to each one of those things as they come up. And we can let each one of those situations be as easy as possible, or we can make it really hard on ourselves. And I definitely went through making it hard on myself, and I don't want to do that anymore. I have "Let It Be Easy" written on my bathroom mirror. And I always think, how can this be easy? Is such a great question to ask ourselves. Even when it seems absurd to ask that question about the situation that you're facing, it might seem absurd for me to ask myself how I can let addiction or treatment related to cancer be easy. But even if it can't be easy, it can certainly be a lot easier just by opening up to the idea that it could be. It creates that space to see things that we can't normally see when we're focused on how hard it is. And letting it be easier is really a beautiful gift that I am giving myself in this situation. And you can give it to yourself too. One of the ways that I'm making it as easy as possible is by allowing my disappointment. I'm disappointed that I have to do this fourth surgery. Of course, I'm disappointed, but I'm also going to keep it in perspective. I want the best possible outcome for my reconstruction, and this surgery is just part of the best possible outcome. I also want the best possible outcome when it comes to dealing with my daughter's addiction. So I'm always asking myself how I can let it be easy, even though she's in recovery. You know, when our kids go into recovery, it's not like a magic cure and everything's suddenly okay. They have to find their way through that as well. I could find just as many things to worry about. I could be constantly worried about her relapsing. But I just keep asking myself how I can let this be easy. And I'm going to keep asking myself that question. What can you let be easy? What are you making harder than it has to be because you're resisting it and trying to control it? How can you work with it and let it be easy? Just think about that. And if when you ask yourself that question, if it feels wrong, like you shouldn't be asking yourself that about whatever circumstance it is, then just know there's a lot of opportunity there. Like the more absurd it seems to be asking yourself the question, the more opportunity there is to create an easier experience for yourself. So just be open to it. That's all that I have for today. I hope that you have a great rest of the week, and either me or somebody else will be here next week. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want to learn more about my work, go to heatherrosscoaching.com. If you want to help other parents who are struggling with a child's addiction, you can do it 2 different ways. First, you can share the podcast with them directly, or you can share it on your social media. Second, you can leave a review. Talk to you next week.